Singularity by William Sleator, 23. The first thing the police did was to make sure nobody was hurt. Then they wanted to know what we had done to set off the explosion that had cracked the granite slab and triggered the siren that had brought them here. Before, Barry had wanted to keep the place a secret so that the cops wouldn't come and take the adventure away from us. But now that they had found out about it, he saw no reason not to tell them everything. He enjoyed the attention and the chance to come across as an authority. I wasn't sure how much I wanted to tell, but it would have been cruel to let Barry look like a fool in front of them, so I went along with his explanation and backed up everything he said. They thought we were hysterical. They knew the property had a bad reputation. Apparently we had set off some kind of explosive device the old man had built into the place. Naturally, we would be scared and a little confused, but why did we insist on making up these crazy stories? Barry began to be really upset, but the more he insisted, the less they believed him, especially when he kept trying to convince them that we were twins. The irony of it was horribly frustrating for him. He had always seemed to hate it when people made a fuss out of our being twins, but now that it was vital for them to recognize it, they wouldn't. Or maybe, it occurred to me, he really hadn't minded people noticing our resemblance as much as I had thought. Maybe that had been another misinterpretation on my part. The argument dragged on and on. Lucy, who had been through the same disorienting experience, had no more credibility than we had, so finally I said, "We aren't saying another word until we talk to our lawyer, Mr. Crane." "Lawyer?" Barry said. "Why do you need a lawyer?" one of the cops said. "We're not pressing charges now." "Just ask Mr. Crane about the Krasner boys and if they're twins or not," I said. "And we're not saying anything else. Our story's too valuable to leak out one more word without his advice, whether you believe it or not. Isn't that right, Barry?" "Huh? Oh, that's right, Harry," Barry said. A grin spread slowly across his face. He was finally beginning to realize what the lawyer would tell them about our being twins. They roped off the playhouse and set up a guard around it, just as Barry had predicted they would. They made sure that there were no other explosive devices on the property. 2 police cars and a couple of officers stayed to keep watch by the playhouse. The others came inside. We phoned Mr. Crane, but his secretary said he was away for the day and would get back to us tomorrow. We told the cops he would call them, and soon after that, they left. It was a little disappointing. Barry, even more than I, had been looking forward to Mr. Crane's conversation with the police. But we were beginning to relax a bit. "I can't believe you talked to the cops that way," Barry said, looking at me with amusement and with another expression that almost might have been pride. He didn't need to add that the old Harry never would have done anything like that. Now, Barry and Lucy wanted to know what I thought had happened back at the playhouse. Barry didn't seem to mind too much that I might know more about it than he did. We sat down at the kitchen table. "It plugged up the Singularity, somehow closed it off. Maybe it even ate it. I don't know," I said. "But that's what its function had to be. It came through, stopped the Singularity, and then self-destructed." "But why?" Barry said. "Why close up something so important? A hole into another universe. Why not study it? Explore what's on the other side?" I shrugged. "I guess they didn't see it that way over there. Maybe to them the Singularity was dangerous or a nuisance, sucking things out of their universe into ours. Maybe it could have done a lot of damage. Maybe the creature was even protecting us, closing off an entrance that made us vulnerable. It looked horrible, but I think it was benevolent." I closed my eyes for a moment, remembering all the time I had spent alone with the approaching one. "It did a good deed, I'm sure of that. It saved us. Maybe from something really terrible that could have gotten through, though I guess a robot can't really sacrifice itself." "How do you know it was a robot and not a creature?" Lucy said. She couldn't take her eyes off me. It made me a little embarrassed. She seemed to think I was some kind of authority, a wise and intriguing stranger, but she also seemed a little frightened, as Barry had been. "I don't know, but in some ways a robot would make sense. It wouldn't care about leaving home forever, going on a one-way trip to another universe. A robot could be programmed to self-destruct when the job was done, so it would have as little effect on this side as possible. I don't know, I have to think about it. If it wasn't a robot, it did all that willingly to save us. If it did all that willingly to save us, then it's the most magnificent creature I ever heard of." "That thing? To eat itself up like that? Ugh," Lucy said. "It makes me feel sick." She stood up. "Time for lunch. I better eat at home today." Barry walked her out. It was something of a relief to see them go. I had been feeling edgy, and now I knew why. I did my 100 push-ups and 300 sit-ups and felt a lot better. Barry was still gone, and I figured he was eating at Lucy's. I had something to eat myself, and then cleaned up the prodigious mess of dirty dishes around the sink. I hunted through Uncle Ambrose's closet and found some clothes that fit me better than than my skimpy ones. He even had an old baggy pair of shorts which I wore when I was running for a couple of hours in the late afternoon. It was a whole new experience for me to run and see my location change with every step. I hadn't begun to get used to how beautiful everything was. I meditated up on my little bedroom. It wasn't successful. I was still so keyed up about his new world that I couldn't really lose myself. So I cooked supper. That was fun. Neither Barry nor I ate very much. We talked a lot, mostly about Mom and Dad, and what would be the best way to help them deal with the situation. Well, at least Mom won't have trouble telling us apart anymore, Barry said at one point. You know, she could always tell us apart even before you got her to stop making us wear the same clothes, I said. What are you talking about? Barry seemed surprised. She was always making mistakes. She was just kidding around, I said. She even told me once. She was just kidding? Of course. You mean you really didn't know that? But, then Barry scowled. Sure, I knew. Don't be such a jerk. I was just kidding, and you fell for it as usual. My first inclination was to drop the subject so that he wouldn't get angrier. He didn't want to admit that he had been wrong, and I was letting him get away with it. But why should I? Why do you have to be so mean, Barry? I asked him, and why do you have to lie? So what if you were wrong about that one thing? I've been wrong about a lot of things. Everybody is. I think I was wrong about you a lot of the time. He looked away from me. Okay, I'm sorry. Maybe I was wrong, he admitted, and changed the subject. We fought about the dishes. He wanted to leave them. I wanted to get them done, and I wanted him to help. After all the cleaning up I'd done that afternoon. How are you going to make me? He demanded. You going to beat me up? And he slammed out the back door. I tried not to resent him, but I couldn't help it. I was angry. Why should I clean up after him? But if I just left them, then I'd be doing what he wanted. There was nothing to do but persist and wash them myself. I kept making myself remember the approaching one in the event horizon, imperturbable and calm. It helped a lot. What helped a lot was when Barry came back inside 5 minutes later, picked up the dish. It helped a little. What helped a lot was when Barry came back inside 5 minutes later and picked up the dish towel and began drying. I didn't say anything, but I felt a little bit like crying. I hadn't done anything to make him give in. He had done it on his own. It was as though he was admitting that he liked the way I am now, and maybe he had always liked me more than I ever realized. Maybe both of us had been mistaken about a lot of things, and had never known it until now. We were both tired and went up to our room. After we finished the dishes, I sat down to write in my diary. I had so much to say that I was worried at first about how I could cram it all into one half page. Then I remembered I could have all the pages I wanted. That kind of thing keeps happening again and again. Suddenly I realize some little detail of what it's like to be out here that I'd forgotten about, and usually it's something wonderful. One thing that isn't so wonderful is the problem of Mom and Dad. I feel a little guilty about what my change might do to them, and keep wondering how to explain it. Once they get over the initial shock, I hope they'll be all right. If Barry can adjust to me, they should be able to. I'll find out soon enough. They'll be here a week from tomorrow, and a week is really no time at all. That is the end of Singularity by William Sleator. There will be more William Sleator in the future, of course. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you in the next book.